So a lot of setup and successful skirmishing available for Weiwei. While the other side for NIP, they're going to lock in some safety for Photic, who has been an incredible piece to the puzzle for NIP. Yes, the litmus test is definitely Shadow and Angel, but if Photic ain't there to slam the hammer, then you ain't got no hammer to swing for NIP. We got the Nico locked in as well.
And this was a stat that you were bringing up from their first series. Photic has 40% of his team's damage in that series. He was doing a lot of heavy lifting. He is incredibly good at late-game team fights. They just need to get there. So I'm interested to see what happens with the mid-jungle combo. Angel going back towards the Nico, as you mentioned, will be up against potentially something that outranges him. Xiaohu has had a lot of value on this Azir recently. We saw in some of the clips before the game, he had some great Shurima shuffles coming out of this champion. With the Vi, it's less of an aggressive combo between the mid-jungle, but the Vi is very good at then kind of locking down the first target that dives onto the Azir instead and buying them some safety. It's not necessarily what we normally see from Azir combos, but Weibo trying to play around Xiaohu's longer range and higher DPS.
I love it because Xiaohu, no matter where he goes, he will still be a general, or in this case, an emperor here with the Azir. I think it plays to his strengths. He can get out of lane, but he can also pressure if you get a lot of presence from Weiwei. The Cassante here, though, is a curious one for me for TheShy. It is some stability, it is some skirmishing power, but there are a lot of answers that have risen up in the ranks here. We'll see if Invincible has one of those locked away as well.
The easy answer would be Poppy, right? And this Nocturne is very important. So we've had a couple of jungle nerfs coming in recently to things like the Vi, whose passive shield has been nerfed a little bit, so it scales a little less off of your percentage maximum HP, so you're a little less defensible. Nocturne hasn't had any hits in terms of the aggressive junglers. So when Wukong and Vi have been nerfed a little bit, it has felt like Nocturne has been the remaining aggressive jungler who does win very hard, very early against some of those matchups. With the Nico, you get to turn off the lights and really threaten some of these backliners. So Weibo, very important now that regardless of what they lock in their last two picks, they're very aware of what's happening with jungle vision, so they give themselves some advanced notice when that combo starts to get fired up.
It's also just opting into a Nocturne. I am always hesitant about it. I don't care what jungler you are in the LPL. There is an avenue of fate that makes you just the light switcher. And I really want to see Shadow be proactive with this pick. I think now that we're getting a lot of the engaged supports taken away, you see how important the combos of Crisp and Zhuo are with the rest of their team. We get the Braum and the Rakan already taken off.
So you can see that NIP, they want to remove as much peel from the support role as possible. It wouldn't surprise me if they locked away something like a Nautilus as well. The Alistar's off the table. Okay, that makes a lot more sense as well, because you can never really pick off the Alistar. They have that ultimate, you pull your combo on them, and they're still half HP, and they walk away. So that one's gone. Chances are they're going to counterpick support and top lane. They'll have both of them. They can try and hold they can use the top lane counterpick as it stands right now for fourth pick, save that support until lesser. But a lot of supports are being removed off the table. That might change some of that dynamic. If you're losing 4 supports in the second round of bans, it might be better to pick your support right now if you think there's only 1 or 2 left which are valuable to you.
I actually really like the Nautilus lean for the ban for Weibo. Try and just take away every single avenue for Zhuo, who has been incredible on the engage supports. I think his mind for the momentum engages are really, really good. We'll see, though, what they want to save for that counter pick. You already have the top lane matchup, so maybe you wanted to go that way. But getting some priority for this bot lane to help in the combos could be good. I want to see if they get something still very strong as that counter pick to the support that'll get locked in from Weibo. But the Fiora locked in for Invincible is opting into something that, Invincible might have to be a carry force here.
That is bold, shall we say. Invincible played 2 Fiora games in spring, lost both of them, going up against TheShy on Cassante. It's a bold pick. And now you see that the Ezreal Leona has been locked into. Ezreal starting to make themselves more of a priority pick. Ezreal's always been sort of a counter to the Zyra. It's a soft counter. You outrange her auto attacks with your Qs. You can outplay them if you hit all your skill shots. That feels like every Ezreal matchup, though. Light will have to be on point with those skill shots. Very long range backline between the Ezreal and the Azir. What can you use to threaten that with NIP? The Blitzcrank will be locked in. It was hovered on 4th, not locked in until now. Some buffering available from the Arcane Shift from Lights. Very different compositions coming out from both these teams. Very pick-based individual excellence from NIP, whereas on the other side, Weibo, they want to play as a unit, they want to play as a phalanx, with Xiaohu and Light picking up the pieces in terms of damage.
Little caveat here. First time we're seeing Light's Ezreal in this split, at least. But also, it's his 3rd most played in his career. It'll put a little cherry on top, saying he has a sub 35% win rate. But you know that's fine because playoffs is a moment to pop off, right, Nymeare?
If there's any time to turn around narratives like that, it is now. We already talked about that on a team, I guess, story perspective.
As sore losers on the outside of the pit here, but the competition is nigh, and game number 1 between Weibo and NIP is about to kick off. Will we get the Weibo that we were promised when this super team came together, or will NIP's miracle run continue chucking on through the LPL summer playoffs?
30秒到达战场，碾碎他们。
Onto the rift.
And as the Gyos come to an end, my friend, we have now arrived. And again, taking stock of the land here, it is a different look from NIP to some extent. We have Invincible's Fiora looking to play with a little bit more priority from that lane, a lot more side lane pressure, but it is all aggression from NIP in this game number 1.
It's a lot of individual aggression. It's a lot of pick. They need to get value out of it, though. I feel like if you don't make use of this pick potential and you give free lanes to Xiaohu and Light, you're going to find yourself at issues because you are outranged. And if you're diving into, a triple tank front line, Leona is fairly tanky as far as things go, especially when that W's been maxed out. And of course, the Vi and the Xiaohu being blockers as well. Then NIP, their composition does fall apart. They don't want to take grouped engages unless they have good positioning for it. So lots of work to be done by NIP to set themselves up for success.
I'm really looking at Shadow, honestly, with all eyes here for NIP. This guy is, yes, the litmus test for the team, but he's also on the Nocturne this time around. So he's going to need to find a lot of early advantages. Meanwhile, speaking of, we got the one little engage from Chris. The rocket grab goes a little bit wide on the bottom side. But this bot lane matchup, while we might get some flares early, some fighting there, they will be so essential as time goes on in this series.
Well, 2 things important have happened already. We had the Raptor steal very early on from Shadow, and as we've talked about, Nocturne, kind of the unnerfed aggressive jungler out of the ones which are still hanging around the LPL meta. So Shadow kind of said, look, come fight me. You don't want to. I have a lethal tempo. You don't beat that. Weiwei loses a camp. Shadow gets to pick up some of the pieces in terms of that. And then in the bot lane, Light and Chris managed to win that level 1 trade. And if Xayah doesn't have access to the wave, you don't get to set up feathers, and you get 4 stuff like this.
That's level 2 as well, as a beautiful hint of aggression from Weibo's bottom lane. They'll force a bit of a back from Photic as well.
It's really well played, because if you win that level 1 trade, Xayah doesn't get to use feathers. Ezreal gets to shoot past the minion wave rather than using Qs to farm the wave. And now this means Photic has to back very early. I don't even know if they'll have enough for a longsword or a cull. They're stuck in a very awkward position. They're stuck at level 1, and that now can flip the jungle matchup, which Shadow had a great steal in earlier, and it will even up the wins which NIP did have at the first level.
That's actually what I really like about this quick combo as well. Some of the return of aggression that the Leona and for Chris can give you. Shadow's going into this one unknowingly. Oh, if that connects, even with that spell shield, they go right back in. Shadow in some trouble, does have Light putting in some damage now, but Zhuo with the rocket grab can make a big difference. He will actually end up getting his Gromp, but he did lose his blue.
Okay, but like, weiwei, you better be honoring Light and Crisp after this game, because they have absolutely saved your early path thing from this Nocturne. Shadow was poised to get a significant camp advantage and start bullying out the Vi across the map. The Ezreal and Leona getting huge value from the early level, at least getting themselves a camp steal back. It helps weiwei keep himself back in the game and stops Shadow again, just bullying around this Vi.
Now we actually see Shadow looking in mid lane. We'll try and get something out of Xiaohu here. He has showed consistently around mid lane. I think it's rightfully so, right? This combo of him and Angel coming into the roster has been such an influx of power for them. When Angel has these big moments, when he can connect with Shadow, that's when we see them at their best.
So I think what Shadow was doing there was threatening a second Raptor steal, but then using that pressure to say, I'm not going for the Raptors, you have to answer towards that, and I'll go towards a double scuttle. So he gets towards the top side of the map. Double scuttle is going to be claimed, which is, again, Shadow making use of this early matchup that Nocturne does have a lot of power in. In terms of the lanes, really have to see if Photic
instant
and Zhuo
start of the Dragon?
I don't know if this is going to be instant start of the Dragon. This might be an instant look towards bot lane to force out something again, because there's no cleanse on Photic.
They gotta make it happen. Nice Zenith Blade flash there from Crisp, and Weiwei has the right. They got the TP coming in from behind, though, and that's pretty big. They're gonna go with the flash and first blood to Weibo. That is big, but the rocket grab back. Crisp in some trouble now with Angel's help. Crisp might go in, though, as Zhuo get a little bit low. Angel actually put back by the Vault Breaker, has to flash. Oh my god! Light gets the big ticket, and that's another capitalization by Weibo. It's 2-0.
The light at the end of the tunnel's a freight train. NIP have just been absolutely totaled by Weibo's 2v2. Everything in this game comes down to how this level 1 played out. Suddenly Vi gets to invade, go towards bot side as well, because Weiwei has been allowed back into the game, because Light and, of course, Crisp have done so well here. Cleanse already blown on Photic. They have to crash this wave in. It's just a really sucky lane state for them.
God,
I don't mind the teleport coming in from Angel, but like it is a max range thing, but I mean, Crisp has all the reason to go towards that. Angel teleport just a little bit late, can't alter this play, and then he dies for the play as well. This is awful, a disaster for NIP in the early game.
Hey, maybe Light was looking at his KDAs, was looking at his stats on Ezra, was like, nah, we can't have that anymore here. A great start for Weibo's bot lane, but something they will want to continue pushing. NIP are right back to it. They will continue being aggressive, and they'll take the first dragon for themselves here while Chris stands there and watches.
Okay, they get themselves first dragon. That will help NIP. They don't want to be in a position where they're facing off against an early soul from Weibo, because then suddenly their pick composition has to go into a straight 5v5, which they lose. It forces them into bad spots. So NIP picking up an early dragon, that might have some implications. 20+ minutes from now, if the game does go that long, before really being decided. So NIP now have to see if they can do something around their first ultimates in the game. Particularly Shadow. He has himself, again, this knockdown, which can turn out the lights for the other engaged pick champions. That's the next port of call.
I love that you said the word Light, because that just enables me to talk about Light a little bit here. I know I was talking to Mimi about his Ezreal, but this guy, man, from LNG, I think it has been really cool to see a bit of that tinge of aggression opted into more than we saw on LNG. And I think with Weibo, he has found a big combo with Crisp where they play so well in the 2v2 that it helps enable the rest of the very aggressive map state of Weibo.
The press attack really helped him too as well. Really use those mechanical muscles, getting that level 1 trade, of course. Press attack's so good in the laning phase, and that's where so many of their advantages have come through. And let's be honest, LPL AD carries, if you give them a chance to be aggressive, they will always take that opportunity. We have so many mechanical AD carries in form in this summer split. And Light, with a very important game 1, might be putting on a good show for himself to put himself into that everlasting conversation of who is at the top of those AD carry rankings in the LPL.
We got 2 Light-based named carries, and you know, maybe they're trying to fight for the spotlight a little bit.
Yeah, so we were talking about this before we came live, because you're like, oh yeah, Photic is kind of like Photon, and I was thinking, I have never heard of the word Photic in my life. Apparently, the Photic layer is it's like the top level of like a body of water, so the ocean or a lake or something like that, where the most light gets through, so certain stuff happens with the ecosystem about it. So that is
so not a lot of light gets through, and Photic with his previous, you know, spring 2022 All-Pro first team is at the top of the table. So Photic has let light through too much. That's it. So, you can't let light through to the wave too much. Look, he's got way too much gold already. Really, Summoner's Rift imitates real life. You know, we're just passengers on this wonderful ride. But speaking of passengers, we got some likely movers in the top side. Invincible in some trouble, does get the riposte off, but the season assist comes right back. Paranoia popped, and that immediately turns Weibo off the play.
That riposte is key from Invincible, but there's so many pieces of CC. You have to try and riposte. Invincible, very lucky to not get 100 to 0 through the CC chain. Shadow first ultimate of the game. It's not an aggressive one, but it does save his top laner. We'll see what that ends up leading to. It is going to mean that NIP can't contest the Herald, so another neutral objective, which they would have liked to get, not going to be on the table for them. So that's going to go into the hands of Weiwei. If you can then put that into Light, who's already controlling every lane, well,
my goodness. Angel Pop Blossom, he has the flash after this coming up very shortly. It's not up yet, though. Oh, man, beautiful timing from Weibo, and they've capitalized on the flashless Angel.
And they capitalize on the fact there's no paranoia. Shadow's not coming to save the other solo lane. Use that in the top side. So Weibo, they walk away with a Herald. They walk away with a kill in mid lane. And if you're sat here as Weiwei now, you're absolutely laughing at this game state. If you can throw this Herald towards bot side and into lights, this game is so difficult for NIP. The gold is already getting way out of control this early into the game.
That's credible. 3K almost with a 20 CS lead for Light in the bottom lane. It just enables again the rest of the team around the rest of the map. And Angel not ready for the crisp gank.
And not ready for the fact that Weibo already know that Shadow is not coming to their help. No paranoia, no ability to fly in here. Blitzcrank is already reset and headed back towards bot lane as well. Crisp gets the better of the map state and just gets a really good angle into mid lane, but there's no resources to help the Nico.
Literally 3 seconds after death, Flash came up. Capitalization is key, and striking when the iron is hot is oh so important. TheShy actually getting that plate in topside will get him a little bit of gold in this 1v1, but this is still something to keep an eye on, at least the side eye in this side lane matchup, because Invincible and the Fiora will have a lot of say as the time goes on in the game.
We led into this matchup by talking about the inconsistencies, particularly of TheShy in side lanes, but typically, TheShy is one of those players where if he falls behind early, he continues to fall behind. He kind of anti-snowballs in that way. This game's been absolutely fine, gets himself a plate towards top side, and despite the fact that the kill didn't go down onto Invincible when all of the ultimates were thrown at him by Weiwei and the like, this looks like it's going to be a better flip of the coin for TheShy in at least this first game.
I'm not a fan here. Nymeare, talk to me. Tell me. Azirs with Crown. They can happen. They happen all the time. And I'm also not very good at League of Legends. But my goodness, I typically really like the Leandri's build here.
Yeah.
I can see why you go with some of that protection from Xiaohu.
Right. We're having an item talk. Okay, so I'm going to sit you down here and just say there's nothing to proc the Crown very easily besides Nico Q, particularly in team fights around objectives. That will become impactful. 3v3 towards bot side, potentially starting to erupt. Crisp going.
Oh my goodness. Shadow pulls the spell shield, and that's big. Now double TP's coming in for both sides. Crisp is already gone. Cease and desist in. You got to watch out for that pop blossom right back, though. And it's NIP finding a fight, picking off 2 members. They actually get Zhuo those 2 kills, so maybe not exactly where the gold needed to go, but that leads to the dragon.
That's the richest Blitzcrank I ever did see. 2 kills on his way to an Everfrost at that point, and you can see how willing these players are to follow up on the big plays towards the bot side of the map. Teleports immediately blown, ultimates immediately blown. NIP, they're behind in gold, but they're still ready to throw punch for punch. Resets cancelled. Weibo could have picked up a kill or 2 there if Xiaohu wanted to flash in with his ultimate potential for that, but not quite bold enough to go for that play at that point.
It's because it's the Crown, man. That's all I'm saying.
Ends up as an even
back to
trade,
it.
except the dragon going over. So NIP get themselves a second
that?
dragon, and we did say that was important to them later.
I don't know if you just saw that. That was very weird. All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to take a look back at the replay. And Crisp just pulling the trigger here. Shadow with the quick hands on the spell shield.
And I don't think Weibo knew that Shadow was immediately there. So that's where the difference comes in. Chris gets absolutely blown up. Nocturne, great at diving into the enemy backline. But actually, if you dive into a Nocturne, does a lot of damage. It's a huge amount of damage down onto Leona. First things off, and suddenly, suddenly 2 kills over. For some reason, I just saw all of those. So the thing is, I saw the emote thing go after, and I was like, wait, what the heck? A Nico clone doing crazy stuff. But I thought that was a 1-for-1
so
because of the lights going
noise.
off. So,
It was like, what is this?
I'm glad you're so easily amused, Mazel. It makes for a very
Oh my
entertaining
god.
podcast.
I love the LPL. I love Angel trolling the absolute hell out of everybody in this game right now. Anyways, we do have to think a little bit about how Weibo continue their advantage. They were at about 3,000. It's gone a little bit down. NIP have done well to get a couple dragons, get some future stacking for this very aggressive comp we set out from them for draft.
And those 2 kills towards bot side for NIP, very helpful actually. I walked away from that thinking, oh, Weibo, they probably could have came, they were probably thinking they're going to get some good value out of that. But NIP, considering they were so far behind in gold, they have really started to pick up the pieces with their first ultimates of the game. First items now being picked up. Beyond this point, I think Shadow needs to be very careful about where he picks his engages, though. Triforce on Ezreal, Crown on Azir. It's not going to be an easy to kill Azir, because it's unlikely that you're going to be able to proc that Crown before you go in, and the turnaround damage is going to be very high from those 2 backliners. So NIP, I don't know if they have the goal to make those same aggressive plays that they've been trying to make with the Paranoias in the early game.
Yeah, I, again, think that the Paranoia can be such a big difference maker in a lot of team fights, but also the way that Shadow uses it. And the Angel combo with the Nico is always so strong, you know, coming out of vision, you're not able to see the setup for the Pop Blossom, but it's about those combos, honestly, for NIP. And I think the skirmish level and the bar of execution for skirmishing for Weibo is just that much easier to achieve.
I think it's much more easy in terms of playing through lanes as well. They have so many pushing lanes. Up until Invincible starts potentially taking over this Cassante matchup, NIP are going to be shoved in across the board. And you can see that Invincible is going to take them a little while. TheShy's been doing fine in this matchup, has himself Iceborne and that Bramble Vest. And now Weibo, they're playing on less lanes.
No.
It's good because it's going to the enemy jungle.
The amount of CC from just 2 members of Weibo is just too much for Angel to bear. He goes down.
Weibo make the correct play. They know the Herald's spawning, and they don't play on multiple lanes when the Nocturne ult is up. They go into the enemy jungle, so there's always members ready to respond to the next play that happens. I think now NIP have to just leave the area, and sadly for them, they're going to give up a top tower, they're going to give up a second Herald, which I'd imagine would be used to break up in the mid lane outer tower, and suddenly these players, which they're already losing in their own jungle, are going to get even harder to pull off. TheShy.
Okay, he is Cassante, though. He'll be able to... I love that Shadow's trying to use that spell shield, but you just have too many abilities to block from the Cassante, and now TheShy is playing pretty aggressively. He has 2 levels on Shadow, and Shadow doesn't have anything to get out but his flash. It will be a little bit of a move out of the fear from TheShy, so nothing else going to come of it. But as we get to it, Invincible will try to pressure him a little bit more. We saw that Xiaohu had taken that first turret up in the top side by himself. He not only has a gigantic CS lead, but he got all that extra gold in his pocket.
And he just doesn't care for what NIP are throwing at him right now. Walks into Shadow, walks away from it, and then walks down towards bot side through Invincible and Shadow. So, Weibo, it feels like this is going to be a real choke out now. NIP, they need to find themselves a play on someone isolated from Weibo, but they don't have the vision to do that. Look at all the blue wards on the map. Weibo have advanced notice of wherever NIP will be making their next play. And maybe they can get a play around the next dragon. If they get themselves to a soul point, you're absolutely right. That's
It's
really
so
loud.
good, man.
I didn't hear it the first time, but I was like, what are you talking about? Now I understand.
What noises are you making, Mazel? Well, Nico, all right? Can't fault me, all right?
Mazel, use your zookeeper knowledge. What bird cry is that?
Ain't no bird I ever heard. Also, I'm from Texas, so you know, maybe there's not as many birds. Speaking of a big bird, I don't know if it's a bird. There's a dragon on the rift. It's kind of like a bird. NIP will start that one up, but Weibo, they want to be here. They want to put up a fight.
If it flaps like a bird and flies like a bird, maybe it's a bird. No, it's a dragon.
Freeze fire like a bird.
Right now.
Wait, that's not
NIP,
a bird.
They need to win this fight. If they don't get this soul point, this game is very hard for them to play out. This is a very important fight for them to at least get the objective in.
Look at TheShy. TheShy on the flank here makes so much pressure on the backline of NIP.
Down.
Angel over on the side. He's waiting for a Pop Blossom. There's a Paranoia, but they haven't pulled the combo yet. They're just going to go straight into the back of the pit, but Light goes over the wall with that arcade shift. And look at TheShy. He's pulling off Invincible. This is a pick-apart fight, and the nice Zenith Blade connects. Xiaohu's waiting to connect to Shurima Shuffle here, but he can't get the damage in there. Crisp is way too deep and goes down anyways. Angel picked out by Xiaohu. Weiwei goes in and gets Zhuo, flashes out and survives. And now this is picking season for Light as he's here to claim and help Shadow go down with TheShy's killing blow. The dragon goes to Weibo.
Oh, you could feel the desperation in that fight. NIP, they turn off the lights, but there's no Pop Blossom to follow. Weibo, they position correctly. I want to particularly shout out Lights as well. Gets well away from Shadow with his flash, and suddenly the engager is completely toothless. Dragon goes down to Weibo. NIP don't get themselves soul point, and Weibo, they stabilize the objective game on both sides now. NIP in a very difficult spot.
Imagine having to face off against these 2 legends in the lane. Xiaohu and TheShy have been incredible pieces to Weibo's growth, but a star-studded roster would not be the same without these 2 guys making new legacies for themselves on this team and on this Weibo roster.
Now, Weibo's had its ups and downs, but both of these players, we know exactly what they can do on a good day. I mean, TheShy, all he's doing is making sure that Invincible doesn't get to have a free passage into the fight. Look at what Light here does here, though. Positions next to the wall, knows that Shadow can't follow him over it. And yeah, he does end up blowing his summon up, but that's enough. That's all you have to do at this fight. Suddenly, there's no threat onto Xiaohu, even with his crown down. He can walk up with impunity. You don't have anything you need to be afraid of. Yes, Chris dies, but Weibo, even in trading a kill back, they're completely fine with this fight, especially since Weibo gets out alive from that somehow and gets the kill on the back end.
That. Shadow not able to hit the spell shield. That was a grab from Zhuo to bring him over the wall and give him the kill. So a little bit of dysfunction, a little bit of chaos. You see the damage numbers paltry in comparison. Weibo rising above the occasion and finding a lot of cohesion in the team fight as well. Invincible in the side lane. Not going to actually take the trade too heavily. I see a lot of bodies down here, and I was wondering if they just go all in. Grand Challenge has been issued, and they find TheShy in the side lane.
Just way too aggressive from TheShy. Can't pick up that wave, can't pick up that fight. Gonna lose a turret for it, and even though there's a significant gold deficit for NIP, they pick themselves up an objective bounty. Weibo cross map, they can take that top lane inner. And NIP, they still pick up the objective bounties. There's still a little worth for them, unless they lose this inhibitor tower. No one's responding to this.
No way you're just gonna let Xiaohu take an inhib. Okay, finally Photic has shown up, and enough of this nonsense. But Weibo come away with nearly everything. They have 2 item spikes now on their major carries in Xiaohu and Light, and they're going to play so much more confidently on the Rift.
It was nearly a good play for NIP, but now suddenly Baron has spawned. Weiwei and crew, because they pushed in the top side of the map so heavily, they have all the vision control. Shadow doesn't have ult, doesn't have flash, neither does Angel. They have no tools to fight this Baron.
Shadow was the savior. Can he be it now? Can he find the steal? He has been the litmus test, and if they can get this, it won't matter. Because the fact that Weibo have crossed their T's, they've dotted their I's, and they have found every advantage possible in this game, number 1, just means NIP are constantly on the back foot.
And giving up a Baron this early, as the composition of NIP is absolutely disastrous. NIP do not want to be locked in lanes against Baroned up minions, which they can't push back against. They don't want to have to deal with Weibo being able to group very quickly and push down towers. Because now that they can just push in 2 lanes with 2 or 3 people in each lane, how do NIP engage? How do you get that big paranoia? What you're really looking for now is for Weibo to over-push and then get behind some of these red wards which can put down for NIP. But there's basically 1 shot left in the chamber from NIP now. They have to make sure it is a very good shot, otherwise this game is just over.
Yeah. And you have to remember, this best of 5, there are not just your stakes of your life in the LPL playoffs, but whoever wins here will be the last team in contention for qualification to Worlds. So it adds that much more stress, that much more pressure. We'll see if Weibo crack under that as Angel's going to hit that Pop Blossom, but misses it. You got the paranoia. Papa Shadow's way overextended. Crisp goes down as a bit of a distractionary tool, and they get the trade-off pick-off, but Xiaohu is right back to it. You'd think he'd be on Ziggs or Tristana at this point.
He's just doing what he needs to do. He has his crown in the side lane. He has a stopwatch. He's completely safe. Crisp dies, but that's exactly his job. Make sure that he's dying instead of a squishier, more high damage member down himself on Leona. Invincible is still in the top lane trying to cross map, but with the amount you're losing and with no wave clear or engaged tools, NIP are going to get crushed through the base.
They are literally just losing all of their base here at 22.5 minutes. This is destruction. And they're going to get grabbed. Maybe a little bit of a catch out. TheShy, it goes down as well. We got the return potentially, though, as one big member in Photic is gone. That means they're turning right around, and there's that Shurima shuffle we've been waiting for. They find everything they need. They find all the damage in game 1. A triple kill for Light, who I said has been an incredible moment for this team, for Weibo, in his addition from LNG. But Weibo have showed up. They are not consistently inconsistent. They'll find a dominant game 1 victory over NIP.
The Shadows are allies to Ninjas, but it is the Light which blows them away in game 1. This bot lane difference was absolutely critical. Right from level 1, suddenly TheShy could not play the game, and that tilted the jungle matchup. That tilted all of the pushing lanes.